So,
Oh,
you
you
guys,
called it.
I never thought I'm not a bragging type of person. I'm very humble, right? But I
Yeah,
so
yeah.
called this shit. I called it the last episode. I called that shit right on the money. Yes, go time. Who
I
called it?
mean, I do hope they end up calling him Uncle Pietro. I want that shit so bad. And I
I
was also
swear.
right about it being a theater.
Yes,
No,
but I,
Cher,
I called it.
you did call it. I'm giving you all the credit. Cher, you can come out now. I'm looking at your calendar. What's that calendar
Strawberry
say?
shortcake and My Little Pony.
Like
And
some
it
kid.
faces him.
Hooray!
What?
I
Wait,
love the
Invader?
80s. Hello!
Just real
How
fast,
you doing?
Callum, you said Invader Zim? Or are you saying that came out in the 80s?
Yeah,
I
the
don't
No,
think that.
Disney stuff.
poster. The
Look at
poster
this.
that's right behind Cherise.
Look at this. I like my skirt. And I got fingerless gloves. And I love My Little Pony and Strawberry Shortcake, and my favorite celebrities include Madonna and Michael Jackson.
People obviously loved the 80s so much, they brought it back a lot during the 2000s period. Why else would they say friendship is magic?
Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you
We're gonna
down.
shoot you down, and we're gonna run.
I too got very excited for the 80s. That's why you can't see it, of course. But I am just fully dressed up as an Oscar Mayer wiener. I'm a giant hot dog. That happened in the 80s. Right? Right? This joke
Who
doesn't
we
work.
talking about?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Disney+Pals. I am joined by Mel, Callum, and Cher, and we are going to talk about episode 5 of WandaVision, which Mel called.
WandaVision, WandaVision. Sorry, that's been my favorite.
Real fast, before we get into anything, can I just say that the theme song for this episode was probably the best one so far?
I have to slightly disagree.
Really?
I still think the one division. I think that's the best one. It's more
I like
catchier.
the which one. I think I just like that the lyrics were like really good and actually heartfelt. It felt like a real sitcom, but also just seeing Baby Vision was kind of a trip. The first time I watched the episode, because I've seen this episode like 5 times now, I didn't even pay attention. I didn't notice there was a Baby Vision.
But I so called on that shit, and I have a feeling that I'm still going to be right. But there's like a few things I'm wondering. Like I was kind of afraid that they would bring Evan Peters into it, but I called that too. But it's just mostly because of like confusing timelines. Like I was talking about this with my roommate after we watched the episode. Was that there's possibilities to that version of Quicksilver in it.
Mhm.
Like, if what I'm saying is right, because it's definitely going to be a confirmed thing that Mephisto has to be the villain of this, or he's involved in some way. But what I'm thinking, since we were talking about pocket dimensions and shit, is that my theory might be is that they might have pulled out Evan Pietro from another timeline, like before he died. So that's my theory right now. But I
My
could be wrong.
personal theory is you'll notice that he came in the 80s episode, and the X-Men movies that Evan Peters is from take place in the past. So my idea is they did pull a random like Pietro from the multiverse, but they specifically needed to take him from the 80s to match the theme. So I think that's why we got Evan Peters Quicksilver.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking too. Sorry, Cal.
yeah, Days of Future Past, to my memory. Yeah, it does have that 80s period to it. Yes, and Quicksilver himself does have the retro headphones and gear on. So I've noticed, as Sherry is clearly demonstrating. Yes.
Totally
It's
bad.
it's probably like also too like it's a full on like like if no other news source has confirmed it otherwise, I definitely think that this is a confirmation. Like even though like the announcement that Deadpool is going to be in the MCU should have been a big message enough, but I personally think this is like a full confirmation of being like we're actually going to finally get the X-Men into the MCU.
I think it's interesting that the way they seem to be doing the multiverse, just based on this and based on what we've like heard with the Spider-Man movie, is it seems like the multiverse is actually just past movies that weren't canon, and that's such an interesting way to do that. I think it's neat, like the fact that we are going to get 3 Spider-Mans, the fact that we very well could see Hugh Jackman's Wolverine show up as a cameo, to the point where everybody thinks the big celebrity that everybody keeps referencing is actually going to be Ian McKellen as Magneto. I don't think that personally. I think I've figured out who the celebrity is, but before we get to that, we got to talk about the episode proper. So let's start with Cher. Did you have anything specific you liked about this episode?
Totally.
Like what?
Like the kid.
All right, I'll give you a second to think about it, Cher. Cal, did you have
Billy,
anything you
Tommy.
liked? Oh yeah, I agree. I think they were great.
They're
Go
so
ahead, Cal.
cute.
Right. Obviously, the big highlights that everyone's going to talk about, like the big elephant in the room, is like Pietro finally making an appearance, and not just Pietro, but the Pietro from Days of Future Past. So that's got everybody going, ah! Although there were some other aspects that I genuinely liked. I liked how there was a few more answers checked, and the stakes are somewhat raised, especially on Wanda's part. We now know that Wanda, more than ever, I mean, we kind of already knew this, but this pretty much absolutely confirms it in a sense that Wanda is in absolute control over everything. So you could just
I think it's like I think what this episode confirmed is that she, like what we were talking about in the last episode, because like it confirmed that she's mostly in control, but seeing like some hints, like Vision's free will is that, and also too Pietro coming back is that because if you remember, she had no control over that at all. So I think it confirms that she is mostly in the rings, but there is something else that is actually like in more control than she is. Otherwise,
That's
like
what I said. I literally said that in the last episode. Rewind it back. Rewind it back. I literally just said that in the last episode.
Everyone's calling shit today. Everyone's calling shit. But Cal, there's also, like, just to play off what Mel said, you know the scene where Vision is talking to Norm after he like brings back his memories? They did that thing that you only do in movies when you're trying to fuck with people. I noticed it. Norm never said Wanda's name. He just said she, and she's in my head. Get her out of my head, which is slowly leading me to believe that maybe Agatha Harkness, Agnes, is going to be the main villain.
I was saying that.
You called that too.
I don't trust her.
I think what it is maybe we could get like an after credit scene reveal of Mephisto to show that Mephisto is going to be a big bad moving forward. But I think now Agnes might be the main villain of this show. I don't know yet.
I mean, how else was she able to figure out to get the freaking doghouse for the dog and when to find the dog? I'm telling you, I don't trust her. She looks pretty, but I don't trust her.
I don't trust her either.
I kind of have a theory with Agnes. I think she might be Agatha, but here's the thing. Do you remember when they were going over in Sword that this was actually a town that people conveniently forgot about and stuff? Mm-hmm. Agnes's picture was on the missing persons and the profiles, My theory is that it's not Agnes herself. I think she is one of the missing people, but I think Agatha is controlling through her. That's my theory, but I know I
Is
could
that
be possibly wrong.
that could be
isn't
true?
that why isn't that why like in that very beginning scene where she appears in the house and she's like, "Can I take that again?"
Yeah,
Agatha was
that's what
weird this episode.
that's what I mean is I don't think Agnes is like the big baddie, but I think she's being manipulated through other because yeah, you see that she slips up with like the confusion and shit like Norm did when Vision, got him to have his own thoughts again. So I think Agnes you have to watch out for, but I don't think she's like fully 100% bad, or at least not Agnes herself. But
Well,
it's a theory, we could be wrong. It could be also to an act as well, or it could be that Agnes is not Agatha. But
well, she was creepy this episode, though. Like, she was essentially she was spraying like a weird perfume potiony type deal all over the kids. She
Oh,
went
see,
in.
she called it lavender. She said
Yeah, she
lavender.
went
Lavender
into
helps,
the
calm
kitchen.
the. Yeah.
She went into the kitchen and grabbed it looked like a liquor bottle, but it was clearly shaped like a skull. I think she was doing witchcraft on those babies.
What's also weird is that she said, "I'm gonna get liquor for the babies." Who gives alcohol to babies?
I think
no,
that was the
it's
joke.
well, yeah, because if you remember, there's a time, and still people practice it sometimes to this day. What she meant by the alcohol was because like they might have been teething or something, and people used to give like a thimble or so of alcohol to babies to help them calm down.
Ah, all right, that makes sense.
So it was a joke in the sense of being like, yeah, back in the day, and there's still some people who do that to this day. It's just not as popular of a practice as it once was. But yeah, you just give a thimble, or like even just like touch your finger in alcohol and put it like in the baby's mouth, and it helps them calm down.
Well, with the growth rate of the children,
Or
they might as
maybe
well.
she's trying to pull a Hercules.
With the growth rate of the children, they might as well give them the full bottle several minutes later.
Well, they
Or
did not
she's
know
playing a
that.
Yeah, they went through so much shit. Like they probably teeved in a second. I wonder how old those kids are gonna get because in the comics they're like 16.
I think they're going to get up to the age range where they do become like their respective heroes.
Like the Young
So
Avengers. They said that, yeah, the Young Avengers is supposed to
Yeah,
be
it's
making.
yeah.
Right. So
I
maybe they
definitely
could be
think
part of it.
yeah, I definitely think with them it confirmed that the Young Avengers is going to happen.
Mhm.
I don't know when. I don't think it might happen this phase, but it's building up to where it's just like, yeah, you're going to see the Young Avengers because Hawkeye's daughter is supposed to be in the show of Hawkeye. There was one more character I can't think of that's been confirmed that's also too a part of the Young
Miss
Avengers. So
Marvel?
no.
Yeah, Miss Marvel. Well, Miss Marvel is part of the Young Avengers,
Well,
and she
yeah,
has been confirmed.
well, I
Wait,
mean, like confirmed in like
America
shows
Chavez.
that.
Well, I think I know who you're talking about, Mel. Do you mean Stature? Fucking Scott Lang's daughter.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, you're definitely right. They're definitely like I wouldn't even be surprised if we get Miles Morales Spider-Man in Spider-Man 3.
Oh, that one's also too confirmed too that Miles Morales is supposed to. They haven't like said when, but because a lot of actors or like actors who used to play like Tobey Maguire is talking about coming back to reprise his role. The original Doc Ock from Tobey Maguire's is talking about wanting to be back.
Yeah, Alfred Molina.
Yeah, but my issue is that like with Evan Peters like reprising his role, it gave me like the thought, and you also too reminded me when you mentioned Magneto with Ian McKellen, is that I don't think it would be like I think it'd be kind of like weird to see certain people come back because, like, Tobey Maguire, I'm not sure because Spider-Man 2 fucked up his back. So that's why in Spider-Man 3 he did a lot of stand shots because Spider-Man 2 took a huge toll on his back. So I'm just a little bit worried about who they're going to bring back. Like even like Hugh Jackman's, like Wolverine. It's just like it's either that they're getting too old to do the role, or I don't know if they can do it the same way as they did because a lot of time has passed since the dark days of superhero movies in the early 2000s. But we'll just have to see.
Callum, were you wanting to say something? I saw you pick your finger up.
I would suggest that I think it's possible for them to play like adult versions of Peter Parker. I mean, like they did it with Into the Spider-Verse, so it's not out of the blue.
I agree. They could shoot it in a way where they don't get any action scenes or anything. That could work. But focusing a little more on today's episode, though.
Right, but my point real quick is that the difference between like Into the Spider-Verse and then live action is that it was animated, so they could get away with a lot more.
Fair enough.
Tobey Maguire will spend the entirety of Spider-Man 3 just sitting in a rocking chair talking about the good old days.
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield will be doing... Andrew Garfield is still in good condition, so he'll do the whole movie while doing a headstand, like a handstand.
I just don't want to see him back because I thought he's so far the weakest Spider-Man in my opinion.
I love him though. I love Andy.
I know. But anyway, back to the episode before we get too sidetracked of who's the better Spider-Man.
So I'm wondering, did you guys pick up on the character they showed in this episode that isn't Pietro, but is also an established comic book character who is about to become a superhero? Does anyone know who it is? Because I do. And I'm not talking about Wanda's kids.
I have very little knowledge.
So, do you guys know the story of Sparky the dog?
Yep, I knew.
Not Tim Burton Sparky, right? Not from freaking movie, right?
No. The Sparky from this episode becomes a superhero.
Just kidding. I know who you're talking about.
Well, the Sparky from this episode becomes a superhero. His origin story is literally he was a dog that, while living in Vision's backyard, ended up dying. And Vision essentially mutilated that poor dog corpse, but brought it back to life as a robo-dog.
Freaking weenie. Just kidding.
It's a little Frankenweenie, you're right. And Sparky the dog just happens to be one of my favorite parts of that whole comic series. He is essentially a dog with all of the powers of Vision. He can phase through walls, shoot laser beams, and he can fly. And I am so excited to see that in the MCU. Just fucking Crypto the super dog walking around. I have a picture of him.
Super dog. Yes.
I thought people didn't like Crypto.
I like Crypto.
Crypto.
You're right, but Crypto has been getting like an underground fan base, like how like the Black Cauldron started getting a fan base later on, being like that's kind of how Crypto is now. But he's still not a popular character. But I thought Crypto was DC.
Oh, is that what he looks like? He's so cute.
Yep, that is that's Sparky. Look at this.
In no relation to Frankenweenie. In no relation to Frankenweenie. Okay.
He's got his little collar that's the Vision Power Stone.
Mind Stone.
I am excited. Well, it's not the Mind Stone in the comics. I am so excited to see. I just want the next episode to start. Vision is trying to figure out Westview, and he creates a robot dog that can leave the barrier.
Well, especially like in this episode, I've definitely had to be on the side that Wanda made herself a huge hypocrite
Mm.
Oh yeah.
That's what I was saying. I was thinking that too. She is a bit of a hypocrite.
I think she realizes it too, though.
Yeah.
Right, but I think she's so. I think in a way she knows it, but I think, and I hate to say this because like Wanda's like one of my favorite characters, not only in the MCU but of all time in like comic book history and shit like that. But I don't think she cares. Like I don't think she actually cares, and that's how I know that she's mostly in control because like if she was 100% in control, Pietro would have been around first episode. So that's why I think that's it's pulling behind the screens. But I think it's just like she does shit, if you've noticed, to fit her own needs and her own agenda. And that's why that's why I have a feeling that no matter how they're going to portray it, her and Vision are going to get at it. Now, it might not be like a huge like fight, or like maybe we might not see them like going toe to toe, Avenger versus Avenger, but it's just like Wanda doesn't care about the consequences at all.
There are times with how the MCU works, because not everybody gets a ton of screen time, that I sometimes forget why I fall in love with these characters. Like, for the longest time, I've been saying Vision is like my second favorite MCU Avenger, and I was like forgetting why I liked him so much. But in that one scene where he's screaming at Wanda, and then he sort of calms down and says, "I'm scared." I love that. Paul Bettany is nailing this character, nailing the ideas of this show. And
That's probably my favorite like acting part of the entire episode.
well, seeing this man who can fly, shoot lasers, and has fought like monster upon monster, look into the eyes of his wife and say, "I am terrified of what you're doing." It really hits me hard. I love that emotion.
Something
yeah.
else just personally is that we've seen Vision like do all kinds of crazy stuff, and even to an extent stand his ground against Thanos. This is the angriest we have ever seen him so far. Like, he has not been this emotional even with Thanos.
Well, because I think like the one thing that you guys are forgetting, which drives Neil points home even further. So I'm on your side of the emotional impact, but he's not human. He's
Right,
literally a machine, and with being a machine, he mostly he bases on logic and knowledge. Like emotions are not really like his thing until like of course when him and Wanda started like falling for each other hard. But that's where I think that the emotional impact of that scene with Vision hits home with me personally a little bit hard, as being like, here's a machine that barely expressed emotion, which is rightfully so, but him being that like emotional and drift point not only says a lot to the actor's acting skills, but also shows it being like Vision's more than just parts.
He has humanity. He has human emotions.
And arguably, I would think that like without the Mind Stone, probably did give him some more humanity, especially since like that was the one thing that like they didn't, whether it's Wanda or if it is Mephisto or whoever's pulling the strings, did not corrupt was Vision's own free will. And I think without the influence of the Mind Stone and him being like kind of in this limbo, you get to see him being like actually human on top of his free will.
And plus, like, a lot of his frustration seems to be going towards Agatha, and I kind of get that. Like, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if next episode he's even more sketchy on her, because
Callum, what do you mean? You're mouthing Agatha. You're like, what do you mean?
Agnes.
Agnes.
Because friggin' it was her yard where the dog died, and clearly she was trying to bury it and hide it. So I'll just go ahead and say it. She killed that dog.
The early scene, like when, like she was coming, you're like, oh, I can like help with the babies, and he envisions like, no, we don't need your help. Like he doesn't trust her.
I think that it's a situation. Well, first of all, she killed the dog. Like, can we all just agree she totally killed that dog? Second of
Yes.
all,
I think
I don't know about that, but I know that that's really sketchy for even in like a fantasy world. It's sketchy for any neighbor of any era to just upright bury a dog. Like,
mhm.
at least as long as I've lived, like if I saw somebody's pet being, like run over or killed, and if they have a tag, the first thing you do is call the owners or let the owners know or go to their house and being like, hey, your dog got hit by a car.
Well,
So I
anything
don't
possible.
know about her. I don't know about her killing, but I will say that she's just sketchy for the fact of being like, so you're telling me you were burying not your dog, but your neighbor's dog, and you tried to justify it by saying you didn't want them to find out. It's just like, no, because realistically, it's just like, yeah, they would need to find out because they would be spending, like, God know how long looking for their missing dog. So she's
Mm.
sus on that, for sure.
this is
I-
why I don't trust Agnes. I'm just saying, I don't trust her. She is shady and sketchy.
I think she's doing something. Like, honestly, I think her overall goal has to do with the kids. Like, I think she killed the dog on purpose to try and get them to age up. Because, like, the first time they age up, the only one we see is Agatha, like Agnes. Like, she's talking to the babies while Vision and Wanda are talking. So maybe she did something to age them up. And it seems like every situation that happens where they age up, Agnes shows up and is directly involved. Like, oh, you guys have this new dog? Well, here's a dog house. I guess you gotta keep it now. Oh, your kids aren't old enough to raise a dog? Well, I guess they better age up. It seems like she wants them to age up. And that's worrisome to me when we're dealing with the devil, because it seems like Mephisto might want Wanda's babies. And speaking of Mephisto, here's who I think the celebrity that everyone's talking about is going to be. Everybody has been saying this cameo is going to be as big as. Wait a minute. Has everybody here seen Mandalorian?
Yes.
No.
Share, plug your ears and close your eyes.
Okay.
Okay, I don't. I can say it without spoiling it. There's a big cameo at the end of Mandalorian, huge cameo, and people are saying it's like that esque character, and I think they're being literal. I think that Mephisto is going to be played in this series by Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker himself.
Oh, nope.
I think it is.
No.
I think it's literally a Luke Skywalker cameo.
He's DC, not Marvel.
No. It's gonna be him. You guys just wait.
Yes. Okay, this is why I disagree. Like, it's actually ironic because actually, Eli and I have our own theories of who might be the devil, but I think like Mark Hamill fits the age that we were talking about because like I believe they should pick like an older actor, somebody like youngest being in like maybe their like early 40s, oldest possibly in their 60s, maybe 70s, but that's pushing it too. But it does have to be an older character, but they have to have like they not only have to have like the look, which I'm going to be lenient towards because we do have special effects and makeup, but they have to have the commanding presence of the devil, especially the Marvel's version of it. And I don't want it to be Mark Hamill because like he's got Joker down, but he's not devil worthy. He's not Mephisto.
I don't know. The man has played demons.
Yeah, but not like Mephisto's devil. Like out of all the devils you've seen like different lores, he's kind of like almost like a 50s, 60s like caricature of the actual like stereotypical devil with like the goatee, the horns, the red skin, like very stereotypical.
Furry.
So
The ridiculous red
If
tie.
only.
if it was if it was Tim Curry back in his younger days and before his stroke, I would say that Tim would have been a good candidate because he's played the devil before.
Yes.
I mean, I
But-
know what happened with Tim Curry. I was just saying that as an example. I know what's going on. May he hopefully choke, better.
I do think it could still be Mark Hamill, mostly because this is a different version, and I could see him being we've seen him play Joker-esque characters in The Flash, and he's very good at being maniacal and evil and manipulative.
He was
So
Skeleton King. He was Skeleton King in Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go.
That is true too. Go ahead, Mel.
But what I'm saying is that he's played menacing characters before, but I don't think Mephisto worthy. Like, Mephisto's more than just maniacal. He's, he's the literal Marvel devil, and I just don't think that it would be a good choice. I would actually be very, very displeased, and I'd probably stop liking the show if they made it that basic. I love Mark Hamill. He's not a basic bitch, but they picking him would not be, in my opinion, would not be a good choice. It just would not.
I'm hopeful. I think if it is him, it could be good. But I guess we'll see.
What would be a better choice then?
We've been going through several actors. I can't remember the actor's name, and I don't know if any of you seen Game of Thrones. I think the actor who played Tywin Lannister would be a good casting choice.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Game of Thrones.
He's got a commanding presence.
Exactly, and also too, with his facial features and stuff, he would get away with it pretty well. Just throw on some black dye on his beard and shit, and there you go. That's all you need.
I think it's Charles Dance.
I personally think I'd like Hamill better, but I guess we'll see.
Nah, I strongly disagree.
Someone like Charles Dance, someone who's got that Shakespearean presence and would take his role seriously. Yeah, that someone like him would fit the role well. Yes.
Wait, who is he?
Mephisto isn't just a serious character. He is a jokester and stuff.
He
likes to fuck with people.
But he can. Well, yeah, but he can also too have that commanding presence of the devil. You need somebody who's a little bit more on the nose of that commanding, menacing presence, not maniacal how Mark can be. I don't know. We'll just have to see. But I'm hoping that it's anybody but Mark. I think the only closest thing, or there was several that Eli and I talked about. One of them I wouldn't mind seeing and share, or sure, don't fangirl. I think Tom Ellis might be the youngest I could see doing it too.
He's already.
A lot of people are saying that Evan. A lot of people think Evan Peters is going to be Mephisto. It's going to be revealed that isn't Quicksilver at all. It's Mephisto in disguise, which I can kind of see.
I can see it too, but I don't think Mephisto. No, Mephisto's character can pull some shit like that. But we were actually talking about that watching the episode. I think it would be I think it would be a possibility, but I think just how creative they have been so far, I think that would be too easy to predict. And I like to give Marvel some credit, even if I think that, I'm giving them too much of credit, but I like to give them enough credit for that, of being you wouldn't be easy, or another idea is that it could have not been any Evan Peters at all. It could have just been an actual fake from Mephisto, something along those lines. But
it could have just been a dude that now Quicksilver's personality is in.
Right, or it could be somebody who was living in Westview but did not show up with the rest of the cast, quote unquote.
I'm also starting to think that Dottie might be the witness that was supposed to be protected. Oh, Cal, you got a thought in your head.
Yeah, several. Firstly, the last time we had the devil depicted in Marvel canon was in Ghost Rider 2.
We don't.
Oh yeah!
We don't
Totally
count.
forgot about that.
Who played him in that? I forget.
Some
played him?
I'll
man.
search it up. I'm usually the researcher of the group.
Do
Secondly,
you have other things to say, Cal? Yep, go ahead.
here we all are sitting down discussing which celebrity is the devil.
The only devil I know is Tom Ellison. And Tim Curry.
Uncultured. There's been better actors to have played the devil. I just watch a lot of cinema. But
Wait a minute. Wait. There's actually. Wait. Who? I don't know how to pronounce people's names.
Mel, you're still more
okay.
than me.
Well, in the first Ghost Rider, Peter Fonda, may he rest in peace. Peter Fonda played Mephistopheles. The hell?
yeah,
Yeah, they called him something weird in that.
And then
Yeah,
in the second
happened
one,
Mephisto.
and then the second one, Ciaran. I'm so sorry for butchering people's names. Ciaran Hines as
Ciaran
Rogue / Mephistopheles. What?
Why didn't they just call him Mephisto? That's such a better name than Mephistopheles.
Remember, this was the early 2000s superhero.
Yeah, it literally sounds like they're saying Mr. Mephistophelies from the Cats movie. All the music.
They were doing a play on words to Mephistopheles with Mephisto's name. Because Mephistopheles in history has been depicted as like not the devil, but in mythos, he's like the devil's right hand man, or like just as bad as the devil. But it depends on which like lore or mythology you look into. But yeah, they were playing a play on back in the day. But remember, early 2000s era of superhero movies, DC and Marvel alike was not good.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Also, before I forget, because we're focusing a lot on the Wanda side of things, shout out to Monica Rambeau for throwing some shade at Captain Marvel. I appreciate that I now have a voice in the MCU.
Of course. Wait,
Oh my god.
What happened to the relationship? Did something happen? Did I miss something?
Can I be honest about something? With how cool Monica is and the approaching Miss Marvel, I'm actually much more excited about Captain Marvel 2 now. Like, they're fixing all the issues I had with it.
They were specifically debating who came closest to killing Thanos, Wanda or Captain Marvel?
It was Wanda.
I think I have to agree. I think it was Wanda just because like you didn't really see a lot of like of Captain Marvel going toe to toe. Like you actually saw like if Wanda had another second with Thanos with all except for one of the Infinity Stones, if she had another second, she could have at least mopped the floor. Not destroy him per se, but mop the floor with him.
Also, people are saying there's a plot hole now because people are saying that Wanda herself, because she did nearly kill Thanos, has become an Avengers level threat. So people are saying that like the Avengers should show up, like at least one of them. And people's pick is actually Captain Marvel. They think she's going to show up and fight Wanda. I personally don't know if that's going to happen. But if it does, I would love to see the fight.
I mean, it's a fair thing to say because at least like where the timeline stands, because I had to correct Eli on some things because he had a theory that all of the people who are trapped in Westview were people, because if you remember in the movies when when Hulk temporarily had the gauntlet and he tried snapping his theory is that they were the first to come back, but I told him that contradicted the timeline because Wanda was still helping with the or she was already Thanos snapped already. So I told him being like, that's kind of contradictory, but it does fall under the timeline of after everybody who was Thanos came right back. And that they defeated Thanos, and then that's when Wanda went AWOL. So I have a feeling that, because it can't be Captain America or Iron Man because they're both, in a sense, technically dead. Like, yes, Captain America didn't die, but he went back to his original timeline. And also, too, in like the original like comics and stuff, he dies from the experiment that made him Captain America. And that's if they follow that lore really well, because that's always been a thing that bothered me with Captain America, was being like, the thing is supposed to technically kill you at some point, and they never really touched base on it. That's my only jab at you, Marvel, right now. That's my only jab at the MCU, is being like, he was supposed to die from his shit, or at least dying. But so Captain Marvel, I think, is technically dead, just only for the sole fact that he went back in time. Iron Man's dead, so he can't.
Captain America.
Black Widow's. Yeah, that's what I said. Captain America
you said Marvel.
Oh, my bad.
Dead.
But my bad. Captain America's, in my opinion, is technically dead, even though he didn't die. But I think he's technically dead, or he's really old, or he's dying from his experiment. But it's got to be one of either the still remaining Avengers that are alive. I don't know about Captain Marvel. I think it would be interesting because she's barely gotten enough time with us.
I do have a theory, and everyone's going to think I'm fanboying, but if you look at the lore of the MCU, it makes perfect sense for Hawkeye to show up here, because him and Scarlet Witch are friends. Well, they're best friends. He's the reason she became an Avenger, so it makes sense if they're going to send an Avenger in, maybe they should send the one that she's friends with. You know, Hawkeye could maybe talk some sense into her like he did in Civil War.
That would be actually like a smarter move, but you also have to like think about like what Sword is doing. Like, Sword is pretty split right now in their tactics. Like, you get the head honcho, like, you know, which this is a stereotype I've always hated in movies, is like how they like portray like the military in such like a stigmatizing way. That's bad, but you unfortunately got the stereotype of like the head military dude who's just like, this is a threat. And then you get the other side that is just like, no, we need to figure out what's going on and to see if we can talk Wanda down. So I'm thinking that at least besides Wanda and Vision, I think that they might either bring in one or possibly two of the remaining living Avengers right now.
I had a thought. What if,
of course,
the show is going to become Neil's fantasy, and Hayfield brings in Captain Marvel to fight Wanda, but Darcy and them bring in Hawkeye to like talk Wanda down, and Captain Marvel fails, but Hawkeye succeeds because he's the better hero.
Oh my god. It probably is going to just end up, no matter who it is. I think, at least on like the one side that actually wants to be more practical than the shoot first, ask questions later side, I think they are at least going to bring in one of the still living Avengers that are still around to talk some sense, because of the fact that she's had the most familiarity with them, so they might have a better chance. I don't know if it would be Hawkeye. It would make more sense if it was Hawkeye, because you brought up that point with, you know, Age of Ultron, but I think it's just like, it would just make more sense if it was anyone that's still alive or still around to talk some sense into her.
I just think it would be a little weird if it's like, we need to bring in an Avenger who can relate to Wanda and help her through her grief. Quick, call Ant-Man. I think that would just be a little weird.
I don't think it would be, because like Ant-Man didn't really like, I don't consider him like like part of the OG group. Like, yes, he is an Avenger, and he has always been kind of an OG, but because we're talking MCU logic, we're not talking comic logic at all. I don't think that they would go that brash of like just bring in like, you know, Ant-Man or somebody that she has not had familiarity with. Like, it would also be dumb if they brought in like Spider-Man, because just like, yeah, they only knew each other for a somewhat brief time before shit hit the fan. So it's gonna have to be like anybody who's been in or the original cast of the OC Avengers in the MCU. So it could be Thor, it could be Hawkeye, it could be Hulk. Just anybody who's just anyone who's alive right now.
In my head, the two best options would have been Captain America or Hawkeye, and Captain America is MIA.
I kind of consider him like, in a way, he's either technically dead or he's too old. With what happened.
There are talks that Chris Evans is going to come back to the MCU, like those got confirmed. So at the very least, we may get one more movie with him. Everyone's saying they should do a movie where he takes all the stones back. So theoretically, we could get a Chris Evans cameo, but it would be really weird to see old Steve Rogers try to like appeal to Wanda.
It would be, I think, like, just because of the time frame right now, and especially like if it is the time frame of they just got done with Thanos, Captain America would not make sense because he just went back to his original timeline in Endgame. So this happened strictly right after that. It would not make sense for Captain America to come back this round. Like any other point, if it is confirmed that Evan's supposed to come back to reprise his role, I don't think WandaVision would be good, just because it would then be like, what the fuck? You just went back in Endgame to be with the love of your life and shit, and to go back to your time and stuff. So I don't think it's Captain America.
Really seeming like there's one really good candidate. But moving past talks of future Avengers, let's talk instead about future Avengers. Like we talked about Captain Marvel showing up, but we also ignored the new Captain Marvel in our midst. Monica Rambeau, she did the X-rays and they came back blank. People are saying that she may have gotten her powers, or maybe she already had powers. In the comics, she has like cosmic abilities. She can fly, she can like throw laser beams. She's basically a lot like Captain Marvel herself. So
right.
I don't know if something happened off screen, or maybe Wanda like exposing her to like the energy that caused the Big Bang. I think they talked about that. Darcy mentioned it.
Yeah.
That could have given her powers. But I think for everyone who's like, Captain Marvel is going to be in this, it's actually going to be a situation of, no, Monica Rambeau becomes Photon or Lieutenant Treble. I think we could see those two fight. Honestly, I'm not really focused on Monica there. I'm focused on what's going on with Vision. What was that? Oh yeah, I do want Hawkeye, but you know, let me be clear. If Hawkeye doesn't show up in WandaVision, that's fine. He doesn't need to be there. It makes sense that he could show up. He doesn't need to.
Right.
That being said, though,
of who makes the more sense talking to her. Does not mean we're expecting it to happen. It's just like, yeah. But
I think there is something I should mention as well. There has been some leaked trailers online, and I tried to avoid them, but I have been watching fan-made trailers, and I accidentally did see some leaked footage. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but I do know some stuff about upcoming reveals. One of the things I knew is Evan Peters was going to show up as Quicksilver. I didn't see that clip specifically from this episode, but I did see a clip of him. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but there are more surprises to come, is all I'll say.
Thank you for your
'Cause I
honesty.
know something's coming. Well, I didn't want to like do a review where I'm like, here's my opinion on this, and not say that like I was exposed to like spoilers. But I haven't spoiled it for you guys. Like, you have no idea what I'm talking about, right?
Nope.
Good.
I think I can guess like one of the things is that I can't remember it. I was just reading about it. I know that we're going to get a different version of Vision probably from how they're building it up.
I don't know anything about that. I'll be straight up. I don't know if we're getting a different version of Vision. It'd be cool if we did.
So the context as to why is that in the comic books. So when Mephisto comes into play, so everyone knows, because I talked about this in the last episode, so I'll give like, I won't repeat it all the way, so I'll give like a short synopsis, is that, because of Mephisto's powers and finding out that, Wanda and Vision can't physically have children, they manifested. And of course, in the comic books, they have a falling out, so they get divorced. But during the time of Mephisto, we get a different version. We get a more reprised version of Vision. I just can't remember what they called him in the comics, but that's what I'm thinking is going to lead up towards, and that's only if Vision ends up living. That's only if.
I mean, here's the thing. I had a thought yesterday, and I thought, it's kind of weird that they're doing TV shows, because TV shows usually have seasons. They're calling this WandaVision Season 1. So I was thinking, how would you go about doing a WandaVision Season 2? And the only thought I came up with was Vision survives. And then in WandaVision Season 2, it's more of an adaptation of the Vision storyline, where he has his own family and his daughter Vivian, who ends up becoming like this super important character in, you guessed it, the Young Avengers.
Of course!
So maybe we could see a Season 2 where it's just Vision, or alternatively they adapt that somehow. I don't want to see Wanda and Vision break up. That's like my big thing. I don't want them to break up, no matter how sad it is that Vision is going through this trauma.
Well,
I do also wonder what's going on with Wanda. Go ahead, Cal.
Just goes to show how much we care about the characters. Also, I hope we don't see too many children aging quickly. Otherwise, we're going to get a new Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid 4, where he ages so rapidly he begins to die of rapid old aging.
Wait, what?
Yeah, there's a video game where a dude ages super, super fast, and then he like has to take pills to stop himself from dying. Weirdly enough, like the real world sometimes. But moving back, I actually forgot my thought. Oh yeah, isn't it a little weird that there are no other children in Westview? Like, I'm curious why that is now, because
pointed this out.
Well, my big question isn't why are the children gone, because the easy answer is like Wanda didn't want to manipulate children or something. But that opens the question of, okay, but where are they? What happened to the children?
Where have all the children gone?
Think of the children!
They better not be in the sewers.
Well, I do have a theory, and I think it may be Mephisto. Okay, so the only way this makes sense is if Westview, for whatever the reason, was like a mutant hotspot. Like, mutants were spawning up in Westview, and Mephisto was like, I want them to make an army or some shit. I think that makes sense, but I don't think that's what's going on here either. So it's weird. Like, literally, I love this show because they keep taking all of the little things we're saying and throwing it in our faces. Like, we kept noticing there was a hexagon shape. Darcy starts calling the spell the hex. She realizes there's a hexagon shape. We start.
Scarlet Witch is a hex girl. She's gonna put a spell on everybody.
I would love that if there was a cover of Hex Girls or something in this shit. But we hear them talking about all of these theories that we are naturally having. Alternate universe, timeline disruption. They're all talking about it. And it's clear that, like, Wanda is rewriting history. I think the question is how. I think it might still play into she is weakening a section of the multiverse. Like, she's creating a doorway and Mephisto's trying to get through.
I think, okay, so I do have a slight theory. It's not like a complete theory because I don't know how it would work, but you gave me like a brainstorm with it. So I don't think it's as easy as, even though it is the possibility because of, Wanda's history and shit, that it might be that she did not want to manipulate children. But like I said, this is just a semi-theory. It's not like a full-fledged theory because I don't have like a lot of backing towards it. I do think Mephisto in some way, shape, or form, because it's pretty much confirmed at this point of being like, Wanda is pulling the strings, but she's not pulling all the strings because otherwise it would be her perfect world that she's got going on right now. Like, Pietro would have already been in here already. Like, anybody that she gave a damn about at all would have already been in this timeline. And then just anybody else who was stuck is just being puppets at this point. That's confirmed. But I think Mephisto, just because like he is the literal Marvel version of the devil, I think that I don't think it's like a mutant hotspot, but I think something is like either could be the least case scenario of being like the children are probably like somewhere else, or something really fucked up is happening to those kids. I do think Mephisto or Agatha has some, if they are like full on pledged, especially like Agatha being full fledged confirmed, I think they have something to do with it. Because I don't think that would be Wanda.
I agree with you fully. Go ahead.
Wait a minute. I just realized something. Here we are talking about children and how Wanda's kids are the only children, and then in episodes 1 and 2, everyone's rambling on about, oh, for the children. Oh, you two should have kids. Ever thought about having kids?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. They like are promoting Wanda having the kids almost as if they're subconsciously like, go have kids. And also, there are no other children, but the town is obsessed with children. It feels like this has to confirm that Wanda is not the only player, because why would she give a shit? Like, why would she be like, oh, the children of the town, when there are no children?
So sorry, I actually got a call during that, so I did not hear anything you guys said.
Big Brother walking.
Callum brought up in episode 2, they're like, during the talent show, everyone's like, for the children.
Like pulling at some like 1984 crap right there.
1984.
I have a little, that's what I was kind of leaning towards, is like, I think something is going to be fucked up with the kids, especially like that was the one part that bothered me about that episode, was the fact how they said for the children. Did that not sound satanic-y or culty to anybody? Well, more culty.
Well, like is that mind control? Is like
I had one theory, but it is a little dark.
Go for it.
Dark and twisted.
What if Wanda, after stealing Vision's body, tries to bring him back to life, but much like what happened in Civil War, she accidentally blows him up, and she blows him up right next to a school.
Wait, what?
And she kills all the children in Westview. That's enough to fuck up her mental state enough where she's like, no more of this real world, and then she like creates all this. Like, maybe she did it again.
I don't think it'll be that far a stretch. Like, not because it's dark, but I think it's a little bit too much of a far stretch because like she has had better control than she did beforehand of her powers. They're not perfect, but you can tell that whatever's going on is that she's got way more of a grasp of what she's doing now than she did back when we first met her, where her powers are pretty much all over the fucking place.
Geez,
At
does
this
that
point.
sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar?
Don't entice her.
Well, you see, I don't believe it either. Like, I don't think that's the case, especially because I actually think if Wanda would have done something like that, she wouldn't be able to smile and do this sitcom shit. Like, I think she'd be crying every other scene if she accidentally killed a bunch of kids.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think that the world even two would actually exist. I think like she would be pretty much like, as much as like this is fucked up to say, but I think like if she did do something that far fetched and
Yeah.
that like she would be like somewhere in isolation, like with like the corpse had a vision and crying. Like we would not have gotten WandaVision if she did something like that messed at all.
I don't like there are Marvel villains who specifically go after children, like to kidnap them. However, while Mephisto does make deals with kids, he doesn't really collect them. I don't know why he would want the kids. That being said, though, like I've been talking about how great of an adaptation this is. This could just be something new. This could be a new change to Mephisto's character, or it could be like a different character entirely.
I think personally, like somehow it, in my opinion, there has to be some type of connection to why that there are no other children besides the two twins, and that's why I'm leaning of that Mephisto might have something to do with it, only for the fact of mostly involving the twins. I know the twins are going to be some type of, I hate to put it this way because it is kids, but it's fantasy. Lots of fucked up shit has happened in different fantasy, terms, especially when it comes to kids. But I think the twins are going to be somehow a little bit of cannon fodder, of the sense of being like they have a huge role to play in it, but I don't think it's going to be like good, or at least not good for them or for Wanda or for Vision.
I in my head was like, who in the MCU kidnaps kids? And the one character I kept going back to that has any connection to Wanda Maximoff is Magneto. Magneto is known for kidnapping children and like raising them to join the Brotherhood of Mutants. It's literally one of his things where he will like go in and take mutant kids from normal families and raise them on Genosha. I don't think that's happening here either, because it would be really weird if they did that with no setup.
Right. There's only been like a hint or two of Magneto in the sense, like the only part that I saw like kind of a wink towards it was the scene where Wanda gets out, confronts them saying this is your only
guns.
Wait, yeah. Of being
that.
But more of a, it's more of a wink and an homage of being like father, like daughter type of homage. But I don't think that it would be like that great of a build up, because it's just a wink at it, you know what I mean? It's not, I think it would be like too weird if they didn't have like any build up or context for Magneto to show up.
Well, in the comics, for those out there who don't know, essentially, Magneto's whole situation is he has another family raise his kids, and then it's revealed that they're his kids. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're going in that direction, because they mention the parents' names again this episode. So they want us to remember the parents. But yeah, that's pretty much the episode. Oh, except for the best scene where Jimmy Woo finally brings Darcy coffee.
Right.
Sorry, I was
Okay.
speaking he or Mel. Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna wrap up what he's saying, but I think like if here's also too a theory is because we've also too got different versions of how Magneto's relationship is with his, kids, even though like for those of you who don't know in the comics is that technically like he was just, their adopted dad, not even their real dad, but enough of a relation to either, depending on which, version of the comics you look at. Majority of the time he's a really fucked up dad, but there have been some versions where it's just like, oh, you actually could be Father of the Year if you weren't fucking Magneto. But I think the only way to bring in Magneto in the context is like if they were going with a different approach with Wanda. Like I said, it goes with my theory of if Mephisto is behind this and he is trying to keep Wanda appeased, he's gonna start bring whatever it takes, but that would need still context and like a good setup for that, because like I said, like depending on which version of Magneto that wouldn't make sense to bring him in, because in majority of the comic book world and all soon shows alike, they don't really have the best relationship.
Mm. Oh yeah, that's a constant usually. Like there are times where it's like she's desperate and she needs her dad's help, but like usually like Pietro and Wanda are like very anti their pops, and that's why they end up joining the Avengers.
Right.
I do think that if Magneto shows up in this series, it's going to be an after credit scene. It's going to be the last scene of the show, just to be like, hey, guess what? Magneto's coming. But I don't know.
It's coming for your kids.
Let's go into final thoughts. Cher, did you have any final thoughts? What did you think of the episode as a whole?
I said it last episode, and I'll say it again. Everyone has pretty much said everything. Everyone's pretty much.
It's also too about your opinion too, like your own thoughts, your free will.
Free will. Oh yeah, I totally forgot I had a free will here.
Yeah. Mel, maybe not tell my slaves here that they have free will. Like Callum and Cher are my slaves. Do not give them that.
Mel and Neil have been controlling us the whole time in their own marriage. Yes.
Yep.
You know
right.
what?
Mel's been dead this entire time, and I've created a subconscious reality where I brought her back. You caught me.
But I'm not your meat puppet, motherfucker, so. Free will, motherfucker! Anarchy!
Have fun trying to get out of Westview.
I'm still here.
I'm not
Cher,
going to be
final
as much
thoughts?
of a bitch as Vision, though, being like, I'm getting out. Fuck this one.
Cher, your final thoughts, please.
This episode was truly outrageous.
Fantabulous. Callum,
Truly,
did you have any
truly
final thoughts?
Is it just me, or have we been talking more about theorizing than the actual episode and its storytelling, arts, etc.?
Weirdly enough, we kind of did both. We talked about literally everything, but we also talked about the future.
We can, like, if you want, before we wrap it up, Callum, if you want to dive into that real quick and make it like kind of a speedy discussion, we can.
Yeah, these are your final thoughts. You had the floor.
All right. After the episode itself, I think it's also finding fantastic. There's still some comedy stuff, but obviously there's some undertones that are clearly there, and we see Vision is starting to catch on, and there's some real drama getting on. We get to see some characteristics of Vision that hardly ever seen before, and it's because it's so personal between him and Wanda. And we also find that Wanda is somewhat in voluntary denial when she is in control of stepping outside, and she is she's desperately trying to cling on to her American accent. You can even hear bits of her Sokovian upbringing are slipping out as she's getting more desperate with the people pointing the guns at her. But I love that attention to detail. Also, going back to the music now, I'm just thinking to myself, on a moral standpoint, she doesn't need to have all these innocent people in her town. It could be just her and Vision and the children. Maybe she's keeping them there as some sort of necessary backdrop. But she could easily just let them go.
That breaks the illusion. Like, Vision would know something's up if nobody was there.
Right. Or also, too, you have to think about this way too, on a psychological standpoint. Human beings are social creatures. Like, I think COVID has proven that more so than ever. Like yes, like even though if Vision and her children is all that Wanda needs, would you think that they would be like always content with that, of being like, because not only is Neil right, it would break the illusion, but also too it would drive them. It would probably drive them more mad, and the whole entire thing wouldn't work. Because you got to think about it from a social standpoint of being like yes, the people are kind of used as props for that reason, but it's just like, no matter how you see it, it's just like it's not great that she brought in innocence for her own selfish reasons. However,
I'd do the same thing.
It just makes like if it was me and like, let's say I was just like, you know what, fuck everything, like I'm going to create like my own world, I would at least be bringing like some people with me. Yes, like ideally it would be like people I would know, but even at that point it's just like, is that enough to make a village, or like would we get sick and tired of each other at a certain point?
It's
that too, like I'm not condoning her actions. It's just like, it's just the more logical sense. And unfortunately, it goes with the saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Except for in this case with Wanda, it's not really necessarily good. It's more selfish.
Definitely. That's all this, at least to the extent of what we've seen, is all culminating down to her. Wanda's selfishness and her denial to move on, and understandable after all that she's been through, which makes for a really intriguing conflict in the show.
Right, that's why, shit, I'm spacing your name. I just like calling you Cher. Is it okay if I call you Cher?
Everyone calls me pretty much anything.
I call her Cher.
I just want to like
Cher,
I think
slave. It's okay.
Well, like even Cher and I pointed out in the last episode is that this is Wanda's own development with grief.
Those of you guys who don't remember, that denial, anger, bargain, depression, acceptance, they're not all in that entire order. You can continue.
Right, right. But that's what I think. It's just like, yes, it's like it's pretty much like, it's not only showing like the representation of grief, but it's also like in a way showing of the road to hell is paved with good intentions, except for Wanda's intentions are not really like that good. I think the only thing good that came out of it was, trying to bring Vision back to life, but it's more out of the road to hell is paved with selfish intentions in this case scenario. Like, there's some parts that are good, but it's down to like it's down to like if it was perfect, or if it was good intentions, she would have just made it her Vision and her boys, but it just wouldn't make sense, or whatever's going on just wouldn't like follow through, and we would have not gotten WandaVision out of it.
Yep. It's like, how much is she willing to risk just to make her happy?
I agree, but Cal, did you have anything left to say about your final thoughts, or are we good to move on to Mel?
I think we're good to move on to Mel. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Mel.
All right, my final thoughts is like yes, the first 3 episodes were cutesy. Episode 4 really did not hold anything back, but I think this one sealed the deal with the previous episode. And if what I'm saying in our past episode with this and the current, I have a good feeling that I'm on the nose with a lot of shit, but we'll just see how it has to go. But the number one thing I will be pissed at is if Mephisto does not show up, it will ruin the show, or at least in some caliber. But otherwise, it's just
as much as we've theorized about Mephisto, the show itself, even though we can theorize about it, has not explicitly shown or said Mephisto.
They've referenced him, though.
It referenced him, but what I mean is that if this was a huge build-up for him not to make some type of even if it's the end of season 1 and they just give him an after credit moment, I'm just saying it would ruin it completely if he's not shown, even if it's just a tiny bit. You know what I mean? Because it's all pointing to that.
Here's the thing. Mephisto has been shown, but he hasn't been shown in WandaVision. He's in the Loki trailer. You can see a shot of Mephisto in that, where it's like a stained glass church wall, and there's Mephisto. There's the devil. Just chilling.
Well, yeah, I know that. I'm meaning the way that they've built it up and how much reference that they did have towards the comics. It would just not make sense if he did not show up. I'm agreeing with you. Even in the slightest.
I think that stained glass confirms he's in the MCU, so obviously he's here. I fully agree with you. It's got to be Mephisto.
He's chilling like a villain.
Yeah, but otherwise, just to finish up, I feel and this might be just because of my comic book nerd side. I think not only is this a really awesome show, but I think personally it's the best thing that we've gotten in the MCU.
I've been having similar feelings. I've really been liking this. I'm not gonna call it.
Don't get me wrong. I have my favorites, but when it comes to not only a lot of things with comic book lore, but also just the way it's set up, it's the best. There's one point you could have asked me any other time before this, and I would have been Infinity War or Black Panther. But I think this is so far the best that the MCU has made.
One of the first things we covered on the show is when we were talking about it coming up, is Marvel even going to work as TV? And honestly, from the show, just the ability to take your time, the ability to set shit up, it almost feels like it works better as TV. But I'm not going to say it's the best thing until the show's over. However, it's already top 5 for me. It has already beat a lot of the other Marvel products.
Right. That's what I'm saying, because it could change any other piece of cinema can change for the better, for the worse. But as of right now, in my opinion, it is one of the best. It can change. It can either go really better than what I'm saying, or it can tank. But no, I agree with you of being I think because with the show of having more time to actually write it down than just throwing it in a movie gives them a little bit more liberties to be able to have fun with it, and also to be a little bit more homage. I personally I did not like Civil War at all because of comic book continuity issues. But I also do get I also don't hate it because I understood that because it's a movie and because they were making a cinematic universe that they had to take a lot of shit out from the comics. I knew it wasn't going to be fully true to it. But with it being a TV format, yes, it's not the exact verbatim comics, but they're able to throw in more stuff with it.
You
But
know,
those are
I
my
get,
final thoughts.
I think after all that we talked about, I think going forward, the future phases of Marvel might just work better with television than with movies from this point onwards.
I still don't know if I'd say that because I can't imagine like with just the style. I
Same.
can't imagine Guardians of the Galaxy has a TV show. Like
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy needs to come in, be fast, be cool, be quirky, and then get the fuck out.
Well, technically, Guardians of the Galaxy has this TV show. It's just in an animated form.
Oh yeah, but you know what I mean, the MCU canon shows.
Yeah.
I guess like what Neil and I are trying to say is that we can't picture the MCU going completely towards television because there is still parts of the universe like that have to be a movie. Like yeah, like what Neil said, I can't picture Guardians of the Galaxy 3 not being a movie at all. And that's if they do make it
I could
Guardians of the
see
Galaxy.
I could see there being like a prequel series about Yondu that could be a TV show. I could see specific characters getting TV shows, like side characters. Hell, I'm just gonna say it. We're eventually gonna get a Howard the Duck TV show. I already know we're gonna. But that's not even a joke. I know we're going to.
Right. They're gonna have to retouch on it anyway. But like, I guess like my other part is that that before the MCU became like not only like a huge thing, but also too, and before Disney bought the rights, like they were able to get away with it before, like Daredevil, one of the greatest like Marvel shows. But I think it would be like for characters that they can't just like shove like really quick as like cameos. That would be a good idea. Like what you were saying, like a prequel to like some character, or like what they did with Daredevil and Jessica Jones. Not all of them were successful. Like I'm not gonna start beef, but but yeah, but like shit like that. But it's just like I agree with you. I don't see it completely going that direction at all. But or at least like to say I don't think that they should start focusing on the MCU being TV shows. I'm just saying that with WandaVision especially, and also like with previous shows before, like Daredevil, it shows that them doing TV is pretty much is the right choice for some things, and that they actually have a formula to do it.
For my final thoughts, I'll say I've said it before. I'll say it again. My favorite part of the MCU is the fact that they can take these characters that honestly don't really fit into a movie. Like for example, I never in my life thought we were going to see characters like Taserface. I never thought we were going to see Falcon. These characters that aren't really main characters but do play a pretty big role in the comics show up, and the fact that they're doing Sparky the Robo Dog of all things, like that is literally the most obscure thing you could have done. You're throwing Vision's robot dog into the MCU. That just made me smile. This whole show is full of stuff like that. It's meta. It's wonderful, and I adore it. I love Jimmy Woo. I love Darcy. I love Wanda. And Vision is bringing it. He is finally getting his time in the sun, and he is basking in the light. And I gotta be real, this episode so far, for me, was the best episode. So I'm giving it a 9 out of 10.
Whoa!
Okay. Yeah, my calculator.
It wasn't perfect. Like we still haven't seen the villain, and admittedly, some of the plot seemed a little meandery. Like it kind of seemed like they were taking their time with a lot of the Billy and Tommy stuff, which isn't a bad thing. But it did dock at points for me a little bit, and they're not explaining a ton, which is okay. They're gonna explain it later.
What do you mean taking your time with Billy? and with the kids because they're aging rapidly.
That entire plot with them could have been 2 scenes. They find the dog, they talk about the dog, they discuss the dog, they take the dog, they go on their walk after the missile, dog's gone.
They grow up so fast.
But I do like that they took their time because, I know there's going to be an explanation for why they're aging later. I know there's going to be an explanation for what's going on with the kids. And honestly, it isn't Billy and Tommy's show, it's Wanda and Vision's show. And Vision nailed it today. He reminded me why I love him so much. So this one gets a 9. Mel, do you want to give your rating?
I have to be on your side with that. I will give this one a 9 out of 10 because, like, not only do I agree with you especially with Vision of being like, yeah, it's his time in the sun and he's basking it. And the fact that now we get to see Vision of all different sides of being like, yeah, he's more than just a machine, but it's also too of being like, I was just right on a lot of fucking shit. Like, I do have to say there was some cherry picking moments that docked points with me for sure. Like one, I did feel like, and this is why I'm really, really actually am hoping that I'm right on Agnes, not really necessarily being like fledged out Agatha, but I'll take my L on that. But it's because, like, to me, like, before she wasn't on the nose, but I felt like that was the weakest part of the episode. What you guys were pointing out of being like, oh, she was there at every turn. And I was like, that was way too predictable. And that was it was really rushed of being like, if Agnes was going to be Agatha, I would expect like something more subtle. So that was actually my weakest point of the show, was being like, oh, let me do this, or she's conveniently around and I'm just like, that's not great. But that's just my own thing with like buildups and reveals. I think it's just because like I'm sick and tired of certain tropes and certain obvious things, or I guess like because we're at a point of cinema now that we weren't at, like, even 50 years ago, is that I expect more than like that shit could have gotten away with it, but like back like even 10 years ago. But that's just that was like my least favorite of it. But I'd have to say this is my favorite episode so far for other reasons. Like, it's reminding me why I like Vision, why I like Wanda. Like, I'm rooting for like the best to happen, but I'm preparing for the worst to happen. So it gets a 9 out of 10 with me.
Cher, do you have ratings for us?
I was actually gonna give it a 9 too.
Holy shit!
I actually really liked this episode. It was very, very deep, especially near the end. The ending was just like, it was just amazing with the acting. It was just, and the kids are cute. I hope they do a little bit more, just a little bit. And Agnes, I don't trust her. I'm sorry. And outside of the TV world, the other characters are good too. And yeah, I think it was good overall. Hopefully, the next episode is really great. Nice job for like the midway.
Next episode's supposed to be. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I said it was a really good mid episode because this is the mid of the the mid episode. Episode 5 is.
Oh, you're
right. It's supposed to be 9. And it's the middle.
This is the middle.
Yeah.
But like the next episode's supposed to be the Halloween episode, and we've been building up that one is probably going to be the best. I guess we'll just have to see. But something I've just realized is if Evan Peters is Quicksilver, then this episode is actually going to go down in history as the first like character from the other universes to be brought in. Like, this is the first X-Men Fox character we're getting in the MCU. It could all be an illusion, but assuming it's real, this episode changed the MCU.
Well,
And
that's
pretty cool.
why I said that this set the stone of of officially that the X-Men are finally coming in, and especially there have been talks about for example, Ryan Reynolds has already agreed to be in the MCU as long as they don't fuck his shit up, because he's very animate about Deadpool being Deadpool, and I'm on his side of it, being like, yeah, Deadpool can't be Disney. You can still own his
said
ass.
It would be R.
Right, but I agree with you of being this is the official introduction that we're actually finally getting. What everybody's been bitching about is the Fox X-Men, even if it's not all of the cast or the original cast back, but at least X-Men is going to be officially in the MCU.
Yeah, I agree. I can't wait to see MCU do other X-Men. I can't wait to see who they get Wolverine. I can't wait to see Jubilee and Gambit. Oh God, please do Nightcrawler MCU. But Callum, your rating?
Firstly, I just want to say, if they really wanted to make their mark, they should have had an X-Men character come in with Wanda's real siblings. They should have had Deadpool come in with Mary, Kate, and Ashley.
I'm still I was talking to a friend the other day. I am halfway convinced that the end-credit scene of WandaVision is going to reveal Deadpool sitting at a chair watching the WandaVision show, and him just go, "Oh, none of that was realistic at all. This is terrible. Needed more X-Men." And then he just turns it off. But what is your rating, my friend?
It seems that I shall be the critic for once.
Oh, you're going lower. Callum gives it a 1 out of 10. Shittiest thing he's ever seen.
No. I'm not going that far. I'm just saying, we have been talking about, the excitement of the future, the excitement of the theorizing. We've barely scraped the actual episode itself. And as for the actual episode itself, there were only about 1 or 2 or 3 key scenes that really grabbed my attention, and the rest was kind of subpar, like episode 3 was. Episode 3 was not too bad, but there was nothing that really stuck out for most of the episode when it's standing on its own grounds. Aside from, of course, those really amazing scenes, which I'm not gonna deny are pretty amazing, where we get to see the character development. There's more things that are exposed, and I'm looking past. I'm not the typical fanboy. I'm going to look past the Quicksilver part. I'm all about the story, just so you know. And they did deliver those scenes in that, with Wanda, with the gunmen, and with Wanda and Vision, arguing. So from a story perspective, the episode on its own could have had a few more scenes that would have supported that. But those 3 scenes were amazing, and because of that, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. I think that's the same as I did with episode 2 and episode 4, I think.
When you said you were going to be the critic, I had assumed you were going to go low.
Lower than 9!
All right, Cher, what is the final tally?
35 out of 40.
Nice. Only 5 in it.
So technically this is actually the best episode, because the last episode we gave 34.
Maybe I should have given this a 7, I don't know. But because those scenes were pretty good, yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think you have
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mel.
Oh, I
was talking about the rating. You're good.
Oh, I was just gonna be Callum, since you did put a fair point that we didn't really get to the meat and potatoes of the episode itself. I think it's fair to say that maybe for a quick recap for the next episode that we do, I think we should do a quick synopsis.
I weirdly think we did get to the meat. I think we talked about literally everything.
There's a lot of theories. There's a lot of theories that we talked about. We talked about so many theories.
We mixed in the plot of the episode with the theories.
I guess what Callum is saying is that it's not that we did not talk about the episode, we didn't ignore it, obviously. I think what he was trying to get at is that we did so much more on the theories that we did not really scratch like what I
The
mean by the
surface.
meat and potatoes is the actual episode itself.
Mhm. And I
Like we
think
did
this
focus
episode
more on.
weirdly, yeah, I agree with you, but I think this episode weirdly blends itself to that mindset because this episode does feel like setup. Like they showed the dog dies. Next future episode, it's going to become Sparky. They show Evan Peters' Quicksilver. What does this mean for the future? They're building up stuff with Agnes. They're establishing that Vision is like finally starting to see what's going on with Westview and is going to try to solve it. I definitely think that this is a look at where we're going episode,
Right.
and I can't wait to see that shit. But
I can't wait for the next
thank
episode.
you.
I'm so excited.
Oh, me neither.
Ah,
Same.
hurry.
Plus, I don't like me knowing stuff that you guys don't know. So I hope that the stuff I have seen is in the next episode, which it very well might be. So I hope it is. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. And would you guys like to plug? Let's start with Mel.
All right. So you can either find me on any social media that has the name imperfect vanity _ not, or you can find me just by my name, Melissa Deeb, pretty much anywhere except for Facebook. I do have to tell people that it being like I don't use Facebook anymore. It's it's turned into a toxic site that I don't feel like being on anymore. But you can pretty much like find me almost any social media that has imperfect vanity or my actual name in it.
Hmm.
Callum, it is your turn.
You might be wise to miss out on Facebook. Yeah. Although a community that is not toxic is the Stardust community. It's very warm, very welcoming, and we all love to talk about movies and television, and whether it be the latest ones or ones that we happen to see, whatever the case may be. And as for myself, something interesting is happening. Throughout the rest of this month, I am going to be playing a majority of Sonic the Hedgehog related games. Why? Because this year is Sonic the Hedgehog's 30th anniversary, and I'll be playing Sonic games throughout the year because I'm a big Sonic fan.
I mean, that's cool. Hopefully, we got some Like, I know for a fact we have some Sonic fans who watch the live streams. So perhaps some of them can jump over to your ship. Sherry, you got anything to plug?
Well, like I said before, I do have a Twitter. It's I think my last name, first name. I gotta change that username so bad. But I don't really use my Twitter that much, but I do use Stardust. Sherry the Dizbiz, that's my username. Although I'm not really on it that much, it's because of school. Especially this nursing program. Ooh, this nursing program takes a toll out of me, so I probably won't be posting much, maybe until spring break, which would be in late March, early April.
Oh, since we're
Until then, you could totally watch my reactions to Disney or other random stuff that I did. Totally okay.
Oh, I was gonna say really quick since you guys remind me of that. So, like, kind of a brief announcement. So, I have a Stardust and I have a letterbox. I'm not really active on those, but I'm hoping, or at least this is like my goal, is I'll probably be more active on letterbox and Stardust again.
Oh, that's great. Well, for me, like obviously I do most of my stuff on this channel. I do have an Instagram, Dr. Neil Tabus. But good news is we're going to be doing more face cam stuff. Lately, I've been doing these videos where I just sort of sit in a chair and talk about something. And I think more of that is going to happen. I did a pretty good video on Marvel fatigue. I talked about whether or not a certain character should get into a certain video game. You can find that on the channel. And here soon, I'm going to be doing a couple story-style videos with that same format. And I'm also going to be talking about top 10 Marvel superheroes at some point in the future. I'm also going to do Disney villains and Ninja Turtle mutants.
Oh my gosh,
Oh.
Disney World, you have to have me on.
Wait.
No, come on, Disney World.
Oh wait, that's pretty awesome. I was also gonna say, being like with the Letterbox and Stardust thing, depending on like if how this year goes, it might not happen right away. But something that I'm trying to build on towards, and for people who want, if you follow me on anywhere like or if you can follow me or spread the word on Stardust, Instagram, Letterbox, whatever might help with that. But I'm looking at least a goal, and I was actually going to ask Neil. I was going to make it a surprise. I actually want us to do a review show.
Nice.
Oh my god.
And I never thought, and I thought that I would ask you if you would want to be a co-star of that.
Wouldn't it be something if I just said no very dramatically live on camera?
And I would just be like,
yeah.
well, fuck you.
I'd be honored.
It's just going to
I'd
be talking
absolutely
about
be
like,
honored. So hard yes.
Right, like it's pretty much like the basic setup that I have in my head is that we would just like watch movies before like on camera and then just go like and actually give our honest opinions about the movie, like kind of like shit, what are their names? The two elderly puppets in the Muppets. I can't think of their names
Sandler
right
and
now.
Waldorf.
Yep. Kind of like that, except for with our personalities, not so much like mimicking them.
Well, Neil would
Now
know
it's just
that.
what part of you and me is Sandler and Waldorf. But
I thought you'd get a kick out of that, but that one I'm not sure. Like it would have to be like you and me talking about it, but I'm hoping like within the next like year or so, maybe sooner. But I have to still do shit in my own personal life for it to be a thing.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, what did you just post?
I'm actually working towards getting a new computer and doing a ton of new shows. Like at one point, Callum was like, you shouldn't do all these new shows, Neil. He didn't even know that in my head I have this plan for like 20 additional new shows once I get a computer.
Callum,
So,
what did you just post on here?
See for yourself.
We can't look at YouTube links and stuff, Cal. We're doing a show.
It's not a YouTube.
Spoiler
I'll
alert
take a
for
look.
Neil's list. Hawkeye is number 1 and Captain Marvel is number -3,000.
One of those things is accurate, and I'm not telling you which one.
We know.
Right, but I think it's like all of our links should be in the description box down below. And I can't wait for the Halloween episode.
I'm excited as fuck.
Put on some random costumes, y'all. Are you doing the Thriller dance? Well, yeah, because Michael Jackson Thriller came out in the 80s, so that would make sense. And that's the one thing I wish. I wish they made more 80s references. They said some slang like cowabunga and like rad and stuff like that. Like I wish there was more 80s.
I think that's like another reason I couldn't give it like a 10 because like I didn't even know what they were referencing with show wise in the 80s until you guys told me off camera because that was the only one that was bugging me of being like I could not pinpoint the show to see
it was really Family Ties and Full House.
Something that's neat though is I kind of assumed the Halloween episode was going to be like either a pre-climax or like essentially I was thinking it was going to be episode 8. I thought it was going to be we do the Halloween episode and then we go into the finale. Now I'm thinking since it appears to be the next episode, the episode after it is going to be a recap episode showing exactly what happened with Wanda, how she met Agnes and stuff. And like maybe we'll see the scene where she breaks into Sword a bit more clearly. And then afterwards, episode, I guess that would be 8, will be we get the reveal of Mephisto, and episode 9 is fighting Agnes and Mephisto. So we'll see. But thank you everybody for watching.
Oh my gosh. Thanks guys. Hope you guys have a totally fabulous day. Cowabunga dudes.
Teenage
Oh.
Mutant Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Heroes in a Half Shell.
Did you end it?